What's up? Anybody who's listening to this, we are getting everything dialed in. So check the timestamps I usually put in the comments on the YouTube comments. I'm an idiot right now. But yeah, it should tell you when to skip ahead to when we actually start. Do. Tyler Merchant. All right, let's get this thing going. What up?
Hey, guys, hear me?
What up?
Hey, am I coming through, Dylan?
Am I coming through? Hello?
It sounds shitty though.
Oh, on mine or on his?
Hello? Hello.
Years, but
All
it
right,
sounds better now.
My microphone, can you hear that better?
There, much better.
Right, it was picking up my computer mic. I'm talking through my
it sounded
Zoom,
like it
so.
was picking up.
So I need to do a real quick test because sometimes when I get on a Skype call, it changes my bit rate for some reason on my Zoom, and then it makes it so that I sound like I'm like a fucking giant CGI supervillain. Like, it makes me sound deep.
I have to record. He's not recording his end, so I'm just going to record it through Skype. So I don't need.
Okay, it's okay. Yeah, it still does it on Skype for some reason. So I'm just doing a test real quick. One sec. All right, sounds good to me.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
Tyler, have we podcasted together before?
How many have I done with Dylan, or how many do I do on my own?
No, he said, have you guys done it? If you guys haven't, then Chris, Tyler, Chris.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to remember which episodes I was on with Dylan.
Okay.
I would have been surprised.
Yeah, I don't know if I've
met
met you
before,
Chris.
But anyway, yeah, maybe didn't. Sorry.
Excellent to meet you again, or for the first time.
Right.
All right. Get started.
Cool. And you don't need me recording.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Welcome to the Watch and Talk. I'm Dylan Shuck.
I'm Chris Hartwell from The Heartbeat.
And I'm Tyler Marchant from the Cynical Cartoons podcast.
In this podcast, we're going to be reviewing Justice League as well as our top 5 DC film characters. And you can hear all of our previous reviews at thewatchandtalk.com. Big shout out to our Patreon supporters. If you want to be a supporter of the show, you can go to patreon.com/thewatchandtalk. And, as always, big shout out to our premium supporters, Shakita, June, and Kaka. Big shout out to a new supporter, Brandon. So thank you very much. If you guys do hear us refer to somebody in the chat, it's because we stream these episodes live on YouTube, usually, and we're streaming this one on YouTube, so it might happen in this one. All you have to do is search for us, The Watch and Talk, on YouTube, and subscribe, and it will let you know when we go live, and yeah, all that. All right. Tyler, Chris, you guys decided to talk about this movie?
Here we are. I mean, gosh, I can't say anything without spoiling how I feel about this film. Yes, I have decided to talk about this film, Dylan. Yes, I have.
I'm fucking stoked.
Why don't you tell people about The Heartbeat for a second, Chris, just before we get started?
Absolutely. I always love shamelessly plugging my material. In addition to joining Dylan Shuck here on the Watch and Talk, as well as excellent guests like Tyler, I also have my own individual YouTube channel on which I do video reviews weekly for films. And I haven't done television in a while, but when I find an excellent television show to dive back into, I will also pick that up once again. But yeah, it's a good time. It's a much shorter format, obviously, than this here, and it's just me looking at a camera, trying to say things that sound intelligent. And I rather enjoy
a podcast by myself. I've never done a podcast episode by myself, and sometimes I have to go and add in edits. Or at the beginning of our stream on YouTube, I'm like, "Hey guys, I'm getting set up, so check the timestamp that I'll put in the comments." That kind of stuff, just talking by myself just for a second, and it's the most uncomfortable thing in the world. Like I just don't know what to do when I'm talking about.
Yeah, usually you'll want to script it out or whatever. Like I've done video essays and stuff like that, but I've tried doing solo podcasts, and it's not the funnest thing in the world. I don't know.
Some people are really good at it. I listen to some solo podcasts, and it's just I'm not. Even you'll notice on this podcast, if a long time I'm talking by myself, I'll start being like, if you want to say something, go ahead.
Right.
So that's just the way I am. Tyler,
sure.
Why don't you tell people about your podcast?
Yeah, sure. Everybody can find me over at futurehorsepod.com or at futurehorsepod on Twitter. I host the Cynical Cartoons podcast. Whenever we do episodes, it's usually interviews with people in the animation industry. Like I've had voice actors from Jimmy Neutron and Archer on, or directors. I've actually had some DC animation directors on the show before. Or other weeks we'll talk about like campy, cheesy Saturday morning cartoons or terrible kids movies that are in theaters. So this week we actually did an episode of Super Friends from 1985 where Superman died and is brought back to life with the kryptonite rejuvenation ray, which doesn't exist in the comics, and it was pretty fucking good. You can find that at Cynical Cartoons, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all that good stuff.
What's the stupid movie that we did together? Oh, we did Boss Baby. Didn't we do Boss Baby?
Yeah, we did Boss Baby. I think you were also on my Angry Birds episode, which, regrettable, man. Regrettable that I paid to see that in theaters. I don't know. I've made some regrettable life choices.
Here, real quick. Something is happening when you're talking, Tyler. Chris, could you talk right now? Just start talking. Just start saying testing.
I can just start saying things and doing something different and make my voice sound just so excellent.
Do you hear when Tyler's talking that
I do, yeah. Yeah, I do.
How should we describe this?
And there's just a slight digital sound to it.
It's like a digital
He
fog
sounds like-
that's around
Does
your
it does it sound like I'm using my phone or something?
No, it sounds like you're almost talking through a little bit of.
Well, that's what I mean. Is it phone
filter?
distortion,
Yeah,
or is it?
that's what it sounds like to me, Tyler. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'll put my phone on airplane mode. I didn't do that before.
Yeah,
Okay, hopefully that helped.
It's a really
that
difficult
sounds
thing
better.
to describe. Okay, try to talk.
That sounds
again,
better.
sorry.
Is it better now if I'm talking like this without my phone on?
No,
Maybe
I
not.
can
I don't
kind
know.
of faintly
Jesus.
hear it.
Oh,
It's
man, I'm sorry,
it's
guys.
More faint.
Yeah, I mean-
unplugging your headphone and plugging it back in, something like that.
All right. I mean that might mess this up even more. I'm sorry. I changed up my audio setup like 6 months ago. I still haven't figured it out. So
Let's hang up the call and try redialing. If that makes
Sounds
sense.
good. I'll be here.
Okay, I'll call you guys right back.
Peace.
All
all right. Sound better, Dylan?
Boom, boom.
Keep talking, Tyler.
Am I sounding better now that I don't know what you've adjusted? I haven't adjusted anything. I unplugged it and plugged it back in, but
I think I still hear it.
oh my god, dude. I don't know what to. I mean, I can record my side if that's something that can work out. But if you're saying that we can't do that, then I don't.
Are you calling
I don't know
from
how to fix the issue now.
your? Well, we can start. We haven't even started restarting devices and shit. What are you using your
Right.
phone or your computer?
No, I'm running my Zoom audio recorder through my computer. It's like an audio interface.
What are you talking to me on? You
I'm running my Zoom audio recorder. My microphone is plugged into that. That's running into my computer. That's
could you unplug that and unplug the Zoom and plug in your microphone
No.
straight to your computer?
no. I tried that before the show, and my old mixer sounds like shit. So it's not going to work out with that one.
Could you just use Apple earpods or something like that, and just plug that into your computer and talk to me on that?
Let's see. It really sounds worse than headphones would.
Yeah. This is
Oh my god. I'm sorry. How about that? Is that any different?
that's bad. That sounds like you're talking on a speakerphone or something. This is neither good. But I do podcasts with people that only talk on headphones, and it's fine.
Yeah, okay.
I'm presently talking on headphones.
I know
All
that
right,
you
fine.
like
I'll
to have
call you
like,
back
the
on my
best
phone
sound
then.
quality possible. But wait, what'd you say?
I'll call you back on my phone.
Okay, sorry, Tyler. Just
No,
trying to
I
make it-
understand.
Okay, cool.
All right, one sec.
What's up, Chris?
No, this is perfect. I just now finished my lunch, so now I don't have to smack and mute my microphone
Oh
in 2
yeah,
seconds.
remember how pissed off somebody got about that one?
Oh, that's good.
Paul's in the chat. I almost forgot about Paul. It's been so long since we've heard from him.
Well, Paul and I live quite close to one another. We just haven't ever gotten around
Should be
to
roommates.
catching up. We really, yeah, definitely, because we don't have kids or we're not married.
That's the best way to the level to take it to. Is
Oh, yeah.
become roommates.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head there.
Do you think what's it called? You think you're gonna join us next week?
Are you guys doing the Darkest Hour?
I'd like to do Darkest Hour if it's available, but if not, we're
So would I. I can't find any showings out here, dude. It's driving me up the wall. Like, it's one of my most anticipated films of the year, and I can't find any showings.
It might not be available here also, in which we'll just I'm gonna do Coco.
Well, it's supposed to come out on the 22nd. Maybe
Right,
limited,
but it might
but
just be limited. So the only thing I know is playing out here is Coco. Here, actually, I
Right.
should be able to find it right now. Coco, I know, is playing out here, and
Wait, Noah is still playing at your theater?
no, Coco.
Oh, I thought you meant the
Darren Aronofsky's film's still going.
Yeah, that's it's had a good run, and it's
Stuck around
it's
for a couple
the
years.
only thing that I'm certain is going to be playing is, but I'm going to know better on Wednesday, so I'm going to tell people maybe Darkest Hour. That's what sucks about not living in LA.
No, it's just it's the worst.
Three
I don't know
three
if that's anything to
billboards.
complain about. I'm 3 states away.
three billboards is playing definitely out here also.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah,
we'll
the
talk-
trailer kind of makes that look a little bit too quirky. I think that the director is sort of hit and miss. Like, In Bruges was great, but Seven Psychopaths is like...
I'm not gonna lie, the trailer does not look interesting at all to me, but the buzz from it is it's
Sad as the world.
It's the number one Oscar contender right now for Best Picture right now. So
Yeah, I've seen people say that that's the best film of the year and stuff, so...
as far as buzz goes. Anyway, Chris, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it over the next couple of days.
Sounds good.
All right.
I'm back in with you guys, right? I sound okay?
You sound
as good as I'm
perfect.
going to sound,
You sound
probably.
beautiful.
Okay.
You sound amazing. Like
Really?
sexual
fuck, dude.
chocolate. Know what I'm saying? I don't know why that had to be
Alright.
weird. Anyway, all right.
Good.
Actually, here, let me just hang up and redial just so I don't have to cut out these 4 minutes.
All right. In the chat, Tyler, so I wouldn't worry about it.
All right,
Okay.
cool. All right. So yeah, we're gonna skip what we watched recently, so we can get right back into the conversation. Although I have watched a bunch of things, and I plan on talking to them next week, hopefully. So into that. But anyway, we're gonna get into our top 5 DC film characters, and notice we're not saying DC EU characters. So it's just anybody that's been in any character from any DC film, dating all the way back to Superman. So I know they weren't produced by DC Studios or whatever, but we just mean based on a DC. That makes sense. Everybody,
Right.
Have I explained that properly?
Clear as mud. Clear as mud.
All right, so we're gonna start off with some honorable mentions. I have 4 honorable mentions. I know it's kind of obnoxious, but I'm just gonna brush through them really quick. So basically, we're gonna attach an actor name to their character because obviously multiple actors played multiple characters, and obviously,
Right.
for instance, on my honorable mentions, Tom Hardy's Bane I have on there. I actually like Tom Hardy's Bane. I know not everybody did, but I'm definitely not going to have the Bane from Batman and Robin on there. So there's a major distinction, and so Tom
Oh,
Hardy's
you mean Jeep Swenson, professional wrestler Jeep Swenson, which I know because I fucking love that
The fact that
movie.
you know that off the top of your head is really awesome.
Yeah.
Then we have Danny DeVito's Penguin. You know, if
Yeah,
anything,
awesome.
for that nose biting scene, that just has stuck with me my entire life. That's just such a gnarly, gross scene, and his black blood. It's just so it's such a gnarly effect of one of Tim Burton's genius portrayals from the. Also, I really liked Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, and if anything,
big
for
fan.
her performance, she does. And then lastly, I really wanted to work this into the top 5 list, but she got bumped at the last second. But Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman portrayal, I think, is really wonderful. And Wonder Woman, sorry. But yeah, Gal Gadot, I think, is the best part, probably, of the DCEU.
I will say that I made a concerted effort not to do the same character multiple times because I didn't want to have like 3 Batmans and 2 Jokers. So I only did one of each of these characters. So Christian Bale probably would have made my list if another actor that played Batman hadn't already. So I'll just say that.
So George Clooney, obviously.
Yeah,
the man.
obviously. Val Kilmer, yeah.
All right, any honorable mentions from you guys?
Yeah, no, I got a couple. I definitely have to mention a couple from the original Superman. For me, the original Superman this is my personal opinion. I know many people disagree with this. I'd say the first half of that film is a masterpiece. I think it's brilliant. I think for me, the instant he gets to Metropolis, the film speeds up and kind of ceases to be the cohesive piece that it was. Nonetheless, I think that Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor and Marlon Brando's Jor-El are pretty great. When I think about not just about Superman of the 70s when that film came out, but kind of just Superman in general. When I think of those characters, those are some of the first faces that come to mind. in connection to
Well,
those.
And it's bizarre that the Lex Luthor from the film from 40 years ago that's still not comic accurate, Lex Luthor, is still like the best portrayal of the character. Like we haven't had anything that could top that, which is insane.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, maybe the character from the Superman animated television show. But yeah, as far as cinematic representations, it's ridiculous how they've just failed.
Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor obviously isn't going to be my honorable mention.
Thank you.
Did such a good job as that.
Wrong. That's what he says in the movie.
If he was just a controversial character or a controversial person right now, that joke probably would have been a lot more funny.
Yeah.
I also was going to say I really liked Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach in Zack Snyder's Watchmen.
I thought almost made my list, the villain from that film.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I feel like that film, there's a lot of problems with it. But I feel like the casting is not really one of them. And I think just the Jackie Earle Haley who did the voice and physicality of Rorschach is pretty great in that film. So those are my honorable mentions.
Yeah. Yeah, we already got to all my honorable mentions. Basically, the first thing that I asked you when you told me top 5 DC characters on screen, I wanted to say like all animated interpretations because they have been done flawlessly, like almost all of them. And, live action is always going to falter in a way, but I think that my top 5 are pretty decent performances. So let's get to those.
Alrighty, so let's get into them. Let's start off with number 5. I put Jack Nicholson's Joker. Jack Nicholson did such a good portrayal on there. I did not obviously follow the same rule as Tyler. I was not putting the same one twice because I did, obviously. But yeah, Jack Nicholson Joker is my favorite part of the Tim Burton. Here's my number 5, Chris.
Jack Nicholson's Joker is brilliant. I cannot believe. Actually, I can believe because I put this together moments ago. I should have included it in my honorable mentions. My number 5, and this is probably because it's so fresh in my mind, is actually Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. And this surprises me because previous to her appearance in Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman film, I didn't really think that much of her as an actress. I thought she was like superstar status as far as looks go, but as far as acting talent, it was like, there's just not a lot there. And I think it was a combination of the material they gave her, a combination of Patty Jenkins as a director, but just this kind of wide-eyed naivete that she projected onto the screen and out to us, the audience, was captivating. I really loved her character, and that was really to do with Gal Gadot's performance, I think. And I definitely cannot wait to see another standalone Wonder Woman film with Patty Jenkins at the helm. And again, that's largely to do with her performance in that character. And I think to a lot of naysayers out there, it was a great moment and myself included, to say like, oh, you know what? She does have something that can be solid. So yeah, for me, it's Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman.
Well, and I also think that we haven't seen her much outside of the role. Like, she's sort of a newcomer. She was in like the Fast movies, which I haven't seen. She was in some terrible comedy that I haven't seen. So she really does just embody the character so well to me too. My number 5, actually, honorable mention from Dylan, but yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. It's hard to think of good performances in these movies once you take out Joker's and Batman's and Superman's, which are higher up on the list, so Michelle Pfeiffer made the cut.
I do have to say, and I know this is controversial, and I don't know if I'll ever fix this, but I've never seen any of the Christopher Reeve Superman. I don't think I've seen it.
Just watch the first one, really. I mean, obviously, like, 3 is messy, and 4 is like a totally other thing, but...
Obviously.
But Richard Donner made the first one, and there's a cut of Superman 2 that's mostly his vision, and it's like... They're good as like historical sort of things, and they're good if you watched them when you were 6, but they're sort of not all that great if you watch them for the first time as an adult. I
feel like I missed my window on them, but maybe I'll get to them. I know somebody's probably gonna tweet me right now, getting all mad at me. You need to watch them, but maybe I will one day. Anyway, number 4. My number 4 is Jack Earle Haley's Rorschach.
Awesome.
One of my favorite scenes from that film is when he's in that prison cell, and I'm going to butcher the line a little bit, but he's like, I'm not locked in here with you. You guys are locked in here with me. One of my favorite parts of that movie, too. And he just did such a good portrayal of Rorschach in Watchmen. That's one of the things I'm most looking forward to in the upcoming Watchmen series that's being showrun by Damon Lindelof.
Damon Lindelof, yeah.
Rorschach is one of my favorite things. Obviously, Dr. Manhattan is going to be fantastic too. There's a bunch of possibilities for that, so we're going to see how that goes. Because I think that show's going to be. I'm definitely going to do a podcast on the show. Almost certainly, I'm going to do a podcast on Watchmen.
I feel like
where is that one going? Is that on HBO?
HBO.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I feel like Justin Theroux from The Leftovers should play Dr. Manhattan. That's my vote.
That would be freaking awesome.
I'm just saying.
Whatever. If he got any role in that, it would be awesome.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I imagine a more yoked character playing. I know, but ladies out there, I know you guys love his shirt off, but I mean like a bulked up person rather than a cut person. This is getting weird. Okay, what's your number 4?
No, please continue, Dylan. This is like the quality part of the podcast here. My number 4 is actually Henry Cavill's Superman. It's interesting.
That's weird.
What?
No, you know what?
I don't disagree.
You know what? The second after I said that's weird, you're right. He's actually well, as we talk about it, but yeah.
So here's the thing.
You're right. He's actually just.
If you guys have listened to me on the Watch and Talk, you know that I wasn't that huge of a fan of Man of Steel. If I was a little bit messy, you know that I definitely thought Batman v Superman was very messy. But I don't think the issue in any way, shape, or form were the actors, and especially Henry Cavill as Superman. It's tough because, like the character of Captain America from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Marvel universe, comic book universe as well, it's a difficult character to tackle and not make boring because he's kind of just the Boy Scout. He's just straight laced.
You can't tackle Superman because he's the Man of Steel. You try to tackle him, he's gonna kick your ass.
I'll tackle you down. Yeah, exactly. And beat you in a foot race. And so yeah, just the fact that Henry Cavill was able to come in and infuse that otherworldly being with some humanity that I could relate to. And I watched him on screen and I'm like, yeah, like if ever there was a Superman that actually existed, I'd want this one to exist because there's something relatable about him. And I just like watching him attempting to connect with the human race and struggling to understand what it means to have this power. And yeah, there was just something very personal and empathetic about his performance that I really, really appreciate.
And his.
I don't know if this is the one that I would.
Kind of talk about his body, like how chiseled he is.
Obviously, yep. Mm-hmm. He's jacked.
I don't know if this is the one that I would want to exist. I mean, he seems so like sad to be saving people a lot of the time, and he's just like mopey about it. Like if I have a Superman, like why not have the one that's like fucking stoked about it? He likes saving people.
Totally. I just think. Well, I think part of that comes from the fact that there is this level of nuance added to the world that this Superman finds himself in. And people, pushing back and saying, oh, I don't need saving. And your saving is actually causing all this collateral damage. And I feel like his saddened response to that isn't because he dislikes saving people. It's that he's saddened that the people who he's saved don't want to be saved.
Right.
Fair interpret.
You want my number 4, Dylan?
Yes, I do want your number 4, my friend.
My number 4 is Christopher Reeve's Superman. Excellent film, especially if you watched it as a kid. It's like the basis of all of this, Yeah, they proved that a man could fly. So,
also, there would be no superhero movies in general now if that hadn't been a success, right?
Well, it would look certainly very different without that benchmark, definitely. I think Christopher Reeves is fantastic. I think he has such, like you were just describing, Tyler, like kind of like a lightness and a joy and an effervescence about him, which is great, which is really great to see.
Right. And I think that performance really stands the test of time. Like even if the movie is really goofy and if there's like scenes where they're like flying and like singing to each other and like, Superman 4 is just the messiest movie in the world, but I think that the performance and the essence of the character that he plays there just really, transcends time and is like, I mean, it's not comic accurate, but it's the most Superman we've ever seen, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
The super Superman.
Right.
My number 3 is actually from probably the movie everyone hates the most, from Suicide Squad. That's Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. I think. Oh. I think she was delightful at it, and I didn't make it to my honorable mentions, but I feel like I'm the only person in the world that liked Jared Leto's portrayal of Joker, and I know that's
Yeah, you are. You're the only person.
Yeah, I just feel like it's just turned into a
yeah, I can't agree with you there.
It's turned into a bit of a circle jerk,
Right.
and just like the Star Wars prequels and that kind of stuff, where everyone's just kind of repeating everything that they heard from an online video, and I don't know. I think it's okay to say when you like things, and yeah, that's when.
Oh, I agree with that for sure.
I just do not understand the backlash on that, but people kind of hate Jared Leto right now, so that's kind of that's fashionable. Anyway,
right.
Margot Robbie.
Just put it on the record. I almost did actually just make my top 10 all Suicide Squad characters as a bit because I thought that'd be really funny. I thought better of it though at the last moment.
Yeah, I don't think any of the problems of that movie had to do with Margot Robbie, and I'm looking at my time.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. 100%. My number 3 is actually played by one of my favorite actors of all time, and he's going to be in one of, hopefully, my top 10 films of this year. That being
Affleck,
Gary
Batman.
Oldman. Exactly, yeah. Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon. I think he is so good. He is so good in that character. And for me, I grew up watching the Batman animated series and reading the comic books. And the character of Jim Gordon, for me, and this is just me personally, I never give him a second thought. He was always just kind of there, doing his thing, whatever. Right. And then suddenly they cast Gary Oldman in this part and gave him the character that they ultimately gave him in the Chris Nolan films. And he instantly jumped to towards the top of my list of all the DC movie characters out there. He's just so compelling and, again, so very human. And it's great to see, too, over that 3-film series, his maturation from just being a normal police officer all the way up to being commissioner. And seeing how his relationship with Batman works. Yeah, just great stuff.
I think his relationship with Batman also probably had a part in him becoming commissioner.
Well, and also going from Pat Hingle to Jim Gordon in the 90s, with the ultra campy, bumbling police officer, that just lets Batman do whatever he wants all the time. You really did sort of need to ground that character if you were going to keep him around,
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Isn't it weird to see J.K. Simmons playing him when he played the Spider-Man? I don't remember the character's name. Spider-Man.
J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah, it happens a lot, because just there's only so many good actors in the world apparently, and some people just look
Captain America
comic book enough.
Whatever.
Chris Evans.
That's Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, whatever. It's all the same people.
Right. Yeah, and Michael B. Jordan happily. Right, and Michael B. Jordan happily made his way into Black Panther, which I'm excited about, because Fantastic Four did him wrong, and that's a travesty.
You mean Fan-4-Stick?
Yeah, Fan-4-Stick, of course.
What's your number 3?
You want my number 3?
Yes.
My number 3 is Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Yeah, I mean, like Chris was saying a little while ago, she didn't leave much of an impression on me at all in Batman v Superman. I didn't really get the hype around her, but just the performance in Wonder Woman, the film, and just the way that it all came together was really excellent. And today, that's the one film in the DCEU that really stands together for me is Wonder Woman.
Yeah, you're not alone on that.
Concur.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Justice League might be great, guys. We haven't said one way or the other how we feel about it yet.
Right. Right, 10 out of 10. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say that too early.
Spoilers.
Everyone's going to turn it off now. All right. My number 2 is I'm getting completely into Christopher Nolan's territory now, and my number 2 is Aaron Eckhart's Harvey Dent.
Awesome.
Which is one of my favorite parts of the entire trilogy is when we first see him as Two-Face and when he first turns his head and you see the effect that they have on it and how it was CGI, and I often complain about makeup effects and CGI and stuff like that, but it was such a great moment and so unexpected. I think a lot of us didn't expect him to that we thought they were laying down Harvey Dent to become a future Two-Face like they did in the first Batman movie with Billy D. Williams.
Sure. Yeah.
But
that should have happened.
Yeah.
It should have.
But Yeah, that was just for even for that moment alone. But he did such a great job in that role in general. So big fan.
Yeah, and also I think the thing to say about the CGI in that moment that makes it feel so grounded is that the rest of the movie wasn't like packed with that.
Right.
You know, if the rest of the movie was like the Avengers, then that moment wouldn't hit you. But the rest of the movie is so grounded, and they really blew up a hospital. So you're like, everything in this movie feels real, and then that happens, and it tricks your brain really well.
So they really made it real.
Yeah. A lot of sick kids, you know, like Christopher Nolan is a monster.
He's a method director.
Right.
Good gracious.
All right.
I don't know Tyler enough fully to assume this yet, but I'm kind of assuming perhaps that all of our lists are just going to start swinging towards Chris Nolan films with the last couple of them.
My number ones are going to be. I would bet money that.
I don't think that you do. I will take that bet. But
I don't think that you do either. No. Actually, I was going to throw a wrench in it and then mess it up right now too, but I'll be nice. My number 2 is actually Christian Bale's Batman, and that mainly comes through actually his performance in Batman Begins. I just feel like the performance that he gave, the character that he was that was written for him on the page, just again, it just continued to expand my appreciation and understanding of a character that, again, for someone who grew up reading some comic books and watching the Batman animated series, had a level of enigmaticness to him, and I wasn't able to really understand and on a more of a visceral gut level why this man was just driven to dress as a bat and to constantly avenge his parents' death by fighting crime and going out night after night, and just what they gave Christian Bale to do and what Christian Bale did with that performance, I think was really impressive. And I definitely understand people who are like, oh, his Batman voice is so silly and
Harvey Dent.
And it's too much over the top, but the more that I thought about it, just the idea of him being animalistic and just needing to adopt this just completely terrifying persona as he's out hunting criminals just made sense to me, and it works for me.
I will say that just like you'll notice before we did Thor, we did a similar countdown, except for we did characters in the MCU. For me, it's like for these top 10 lists, I try not to. I find myself drawing to discuss supporting characters. That's why I haven't mentioned anybody's portrayal as Batman or anything like that. But I would say, maybe controversial, but I think it's easy for me to say Christian Bale's my favorite Batman. And that's no disrespect to Michael Keaton or to George Clooney, is obviously most people's favorite. That was a joke.
I know.
But yeah, so I try not to say Spider-Man for that, and I try not to say.
Yeah, I think that the hero has to be, the rock that like holds the movie together, and their love interest is usually pretty boring too. But the side characters, the sidekicks that get to be funny, or like maybe a villain, or maybe the supporting father figure is the person who really gets to go out on a branch with their performance and do something interesting.
Right, because you can have a good main person and the movie still sucks. Man of Steel is a great example of that.
Right,
but it takes the great villains and great side characters to really stand out. I think the only main character I chose on my list was Wonder Woman, and she was presented originally as a side character, but yeah, she did such a great job in her role that I had to give her.
Right. You want my number 2?
Yes, I do. And what's your poop?
Awesome. My number 2 is here's the wrench, you guys. Heath Ledger's Joker.
There it is.
I mean, he's fucking awesome. We all know that he's fucking awesome. People have talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. It's horrible that that he died at like the time that he did and when he was so young. And he did an awesome job, and he really made the character his own. But it's not, like really like any interpretation from the comics, which is what makes it great. But it doesn't really capture the essence of the character.
He's your second favorite, so you don't have to code it like you're tearing her apart, right? Like you don't have to.
That's what I'm saying.
I know you still have him pretty high in your list, so don't worry. We're not taking this like you're disrespecting him or anything.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to tear him down. I think that he's awesome, and I think that under different circumstances he'd probably top my list. But
you know,
Is that,
it's
how you feeling
it is what it is.
Your list? I will say I don't think that he would have won the Oscar if he hadn't passed away.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I do think that, like, obviously everybody thinks that The Dark Knight Rises would have been entirely different if he was still around, you know, or probably a lot better movie if he was still around to do it. So, you know, it's a tragedy, but it is what it is.
My number one, to continue your conversation, is Heath Ledger's Joker. It's just, you know, I think that the legacy of it was really impacted, obviously, like I just said, by his death. I don't know if he would have gotten an Oscar, and that's not because I don't think he did a good job, because obviously I did. It's just that that's not a typical movie that would have. Now, it would have been interesting to see it, but the fact is, by the time anybody saw it, he had already passed away. So we won't know what everybody would have said otherwise, but it is just such a memorable performance. Just the way that he licks his lips, and the way that he embodied that character so perfectly and so chaotically was just such a treat. And for someone to be able to almost uniformly top Jack Nicholson's portrayal of him is really difficult to do. Everyone is so originalist about so many characters. Very difficult to be able to pull that off, and he did, and he definitely did. And I do believe that he would have probably topped everybody's list, whether or not he passed away, because I think he did. So Heath Ledger.
Yeah, I mean, surprise, surprise, my number one is also Heath Ledger's The Joker, and I can't really add a whole lot more to it than what you guys have just said. He really does do a phenomenal job in the role, and that means something even more, I think, coming from me, because I definitely had this kind of adverse reaction to him initially, because I was just so disgusted how attractive everyone thought he was. Like, guys and girls alike, like, he's so cool, or girls are like, he's so sexy, and I'm like, guys, he's evil. Like, what's wrong with you?
Was that happening?
Right.
And it just drove me up the wall, and it made me dislike
to him as
I mean, yeah. Okay, but Dylan, think about how many guys have a hard-on for Harley Quinn. Like, it's almost the same thing. You know, people do think that
great example.
Madness in a supervillain is sexy. It's definitely a thing.
Yeah. So I just for a time was like, I couldn't look at it objectively, I feel like. But actually, after having some time from it, and actually just very recently, a couple of months ago, I rewatched all the Batman films, and I was like, wow, he is outstanding in that role for all the reasons that Dylan described. And that's why it's top of my list.
Curious what your number one is. I wish I had every single one of your answers in my head so I could try to make a prediction, but everybody's just kind of jumbled up.
Yeah, my number one, I mean, a little bit controversial, you know.
Michael Keaton.
What was that?
Michael Keaton.
No, it's Killer Croc from Suicide Squad. I mean, it won an Oscar. I mean, it's a great film. No, yeah, it's Michael Keaton. It's hard to beat nostalgia,
joking,
man.
At least I'm proud of myself for predicting that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to beat nostalgia. You know, I watched that movie 50,000 fucking times when I was a kid. You know, I watched it all the way, all of my life. It still holds up in a lot of ways. I don't think The Dark Knight or Batman Returns is quite as good as a lot of people think it is, but I mean, Michael Keaton just fucking blew it away, you know? And that movie is infinitely rewatchable, and yeah, he tops my list.
All right. What is everybody else's out there? We want to hear what your guys' top 5 are, so go ahead and tweet us in at The Watch and Talk, or email us thewatchtalk@gmail.com, and let us know what you think. Paul Elliott in the chat said Jeffrey Dean Morgan's comedian from The Watchmen is one that we didn't mention.
I think that Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Batman's dad is my favorite.
That's probably just as good. That's for sure. I just don't think we would have been into Jeffrey Dean Morgan's comedian. I don't think, if it wasn't for Negan. So, all right. Let's get into our review of Justice League. We're going to do a non-spoiler review of the movie, but I don't think that we're going to be super careful about not spoiling the previous DCEU movies. So just be wary if you haven't seen Wonder Woman. We're not going to overtly spoil anything, but we're going to try to speak freely. I'll give like I said, we're going to give our non-spoiler review and our letter grades, kind of a recommendations for the movie. Then we will switch over to a spoiler section and discuss it more in depth. So stick around if you've already seen it. The plot summary for the film is fueled by his restored faith in humanity and inspired by Superman's selfless act. Bruce Wayne enlists the help of his newfound ally, Diana Prince, to face an even greater enemy. It's directed by Zack Snyder, although Joss Whedon, he came in and finished the movie. Do we know exactly how that? I don't have.
Yeah, so essentially, after principal photography was done, Zack Snyder had to step down for some horrible personal reasons. And Joss Whedon was already going to come in and do some rewrites. And the pickups, Zack Snyder was planning on directing those rewrites that Joss Whedon had done. But since he had to step down, Joss just stepped in to direct all the reshoots.
Right, which it ranges. A lot of people are saying like it's 10% of the movie, it's 70% of the movie. Like when you watch the movie, you can see the reshoots. It was a lot of the movie. You can kind of tell when you watch it.
Chris, why don't you start off with your non-spoiler review of Justice League?
Excellente. So if you guys have watched my my review over on the Heartbeat, the way that I kind of described the experience of watching this film, when it comes to films that I would kind of classify as bad, one of the ways that I might classify a film as bad is saying it's a mess. So I walk out of a film like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Batman v Superman for me personally, and I just feel like the director didn't know exactly what they wanted to say, or if they did know what they wanted to say, they didn't know how to say it clearly, and they have just far too many characters to wrangle. They have far too many plot threads to keep in line, and the through line, the spine, the essence, the heartbeat, so to speak, of the piece is just kind of indiscernible. It feels like it's all over the place, and it's trying to do far too many things. And it's kind of like, if you've gone and had some sort of like large meal, it's like you had a donut followed by a hamburger, followed by a steak, folled by some lasagna, and you're like, these are all good things, but you put them together and you're like, oh. Like you just kind of, you're left feeling gross, and what could have been good has been messied because it's all in there. And that for me was not.
So you're saying watch 20 minutes of the film at a time, and then you'll be, eating the pizza, wait 3 days, eat the steak.
Yeah, hey, there you go. Totally. Watch it like
Turn into a TV show.
Exactly. And that's actually very kind of that actually probably would work in a certain sort of way.
Real quick, also, I mean, if kind of along that line, I did feel like this movie was a collection of short films.
Well, yeah,
at least the first hour.
And that's what I was going to kind of say. And there are other films that I wouldn't classify necessarily as messes. I would just kind of classify them as empty. And that ultimately is kind of how I felt watching Justice League. I felt like we were just talking a moment ago about how Joss Whedon kind of came on at the last second and took over for Snyder and not hijacked his vision, but definitely changed what Snyder had definitely originally intended to do with the film, and Chris Terrio, the original screenwriter, what they had intended to do with the film. And the common ground that they found was neither Snyder nor Whedon. It was just kind of this hollow, empty, in my opinion, very lifeless, going through the motions kind of film, where here's this moment, followed by this moment, followed by that moment, that don't really have any sort of, like Dylan was saying, through line or connective tissue. And so often, like, I like Joss Whedon as a writer. I think he has a very quirky, very stylized way of writing, but I enjoy it. And what I constantly saw every single time a Joss Whedon line came into this film, and I could definitely tell when they did, was like, well, that was a first draft of a line. That was just rushily, written down on some cocktail napkin as he's running from one set to the next to try and finish this thing by their November deadline. And it just felt hollow and empty and like it was going through the motions. Like, yep, we need that scene where we see a bit of Flash's backstory and understand his connection to his dad, and that'll give the audience something to root for and allow them to connect. So just do something like that and move on to the next scene.
Right. With the jokes, like, there's a lot of jokes in the movie. I feel like most of them didn't hit for me, and my theater, like, didn't laugh at all. Like, they laughed at a couple of the lines, but it felt obligatory and, like, forced.
I had a full theater, and every time there was a joke, maybe 10% of the people kind of chuckled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, for sure.
it's such a gross contrast to Thor Ragnarok, which I just
Exactly.
rewatched this.
Everyone
Where
was
everybody
yowling.
fucking lost it. Yeah,
You
they
could
loved the
feel like
movie.
you could just feel the life getting slowly sucked out of the theater.
Right. And
I have to say
you can
that,
hear
like-
somebody across the room trying so hard to
To-
convince themselves they think the joke is funny.
Right.
You know.
And it's funny too because I'm the person that sits there and I'm like I get annoyed when a comic book movie feels like they need to be super funny all the time. And then I
Right.
see Thor Ragnarok and I'm like, guys, this movie, no matter what, if I want to sit there cross my arms and be like, I hate when movies do this, regardless, I was rolling on the floor laughing. I couldn't stop laughing in that movie because
it's made by a comedian. It's
Right.
written by comedians
Right.
and directed by comedians.
correct. So it's like no
And
matter what I said, no
intended to
matter
be
what,
so
it
from the
was
outset.
funny. It was super funny. And
Right.
I'll tell you guys when we get to spoilers, there's one joke that worked for me and it made me smile. But that's it.
There was one that worked for me too. We'll get to it. But
And-
yeah, sorry,
and
Chris.
again,
I kind of hijacked.
it made
your
me
joke.
No, please.
It made me smile. It didn't make me laugh. So, yeah.
Yeah, and to actually compare this whole conversation to the film itself, Tyler just said he quote-unquote hijacked me, but he didn't. He continued to build off what I was already saying, what I was already doing, and that's not what happened with Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder. There was kind of like this, like, oh, I see where you were going with this scene and the tone in this moment, Zack, but we're going to kind of and just do this instead.
They should really hire us to direct the next one. I mean, me and you, Chris, we can fucking kill it. Sorry, Dylan, that you're left out of this, but you know, you can
Man,
do
I
something
feel like I
on
would
it,
be so
think.
good as a director of a Justice League film. Like, wow, like I would be amazing.
Yeah, sign me up to watch that movie now. But actually, no, just to continue to build upon what you guys were saying, and I can quote unquote spoil this because it was already in the trailer. There's the scene where Batman goes to visit Flash for the first time and basically tries to convince him, "Hey, join the Justice League." And the scene's fine, and for the most part, it plays out in the kind of the quote unquote Snyder version. And it's there's a smile on your face as you're watching it because there's this very earnest Flash character who's just like excited about interacting with other people and being a part of a team, and it's working fine. And then suddenly this like very clear pickup shot with this extra stupid joke comes in and completely deflates anything that the scene had going for it. And you're like, okay, whatever. And that for me constantly happened.
I mean, I'm going to mention the or at least kind of brand what the joke is, but it was the brunch joke, right?
Yep.
I don't think I've ever seen a joke fall on its face so bad in a like non like Fairley Brothers movie or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
this was
Well, the
Zoolander 2
problem is-
level, like, or Anchorman 2, just a bad comedy sequel that nobody even asked for. This would
Well, the
I don't even
problem
know if
is
there'd
that
be-
every joke like swings for the fences. Like every joke is so fucking broad, and it's like, who is laughing at these like dumb little quips that they throw in? You know, like when Black Widow in Age of Ultron, I know that's kind of fast, when she's like driving through the thing, like trying to save the day on. Like,
Uh-oh. You're cutting out. Sorry.
or who
Hold on.
said that?
Hold on. You cut out right there for a second. Could you hear that, Chris?
Am I back in with
No,
you guys?
he cut out.
I'm not back in with you guys now.
No, you are. Okay. There you are. I'm gonna.
Okay,
take
good.
I'm gonna
Sorry.
take
I mean- Okay.
Just repeat.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, basically, the problem is just that the quips in these kinds of movies aren't funny, and I kind of do attribute that to Whedon a little bit. Like, I love Firefly, I love Serenity, and horrible, but I think he brought like this weird like jokiness to these movies where somebody doesn't need to be joking when they're like punching a bad guy in the face, you know, and like nobody actually laughs at those jokes, so I don't know why they're there.
Yeah, it's just an attempt to make it
it's tough.
campy, and it's usually fails.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
unless it's
so-
a fight between a friend like Hulk and Thor, it will work there because they're not actually trying to kill each other.
Right.
Sure. And it just, and then the really tough thing is it would be one thing if the filmmakers felt like they were, okay, let's just sprint through the conversation scenes as quickly as possible so that we can dish out some excellent action sequences. Let's get to the good part, right? Unfortunately, the action sequences were just as lifeless and boring as everything else. Like, every single action sequence in this film, either I had seen a version of it in a different film that was the exact same but much better, or it felt like they were just kind of like buying time. So again, this isn't a spoiler, but the bad guys going around to collect these different mother boxes, and you just know the outcome of every single one of those attacks as they're happening, but they just draw them out like, ooh, maybe the good guys in this moment will prevail, and it's like you know how things are going to conclude in those moments, and they're just kind of drawing it out to have an action sequence in that moment. And ultimately, at the end of the film, when it's the Justice League versus this baddie, there were no stakes at all. There was never a feeling of like, oh, the Justice League might be screwed here.
But they said they have to save the world, so I guess there were stakes because
and you keep seeing that. Yeah, and you keep seeing like that dumb family, and you're like, oh, are they gonna die? And you obviously think that they're going to die because that's obviously going to happen.
Right.
And it feels like they fucked up the stakes in Man of Steel so bad that they had to like course correct every single time. You know, like Man of Steel, they killed 1 million people in Metropolis, and they're like, all right, people didn't like that. Let's fix it in Batman and the Super by having Abandoned Island like that.
You're cutting out.
Suicide Squad, Abandoned City.
You continue to cut out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Let's hang up and just redial.
All right.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Peace.
Sounds good.
Baba boom.
Let's.
Heyo.
Waiting for him to connect. Maybe he's restarting.
The man of mighty might.
I don't know what that was.
It's my theme song for Tyler, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should have realized that. That's actually.
It's all good. It's all good. You know, we all have shortcomings.
Maybe he's restarting his router or something.
Maybe. Dylan, I don't know. Have you seen the Harry Potter films? I don't know why. For some reason, I feel like you're one of those guys that hasn't seen them.
I haven't. I watched.
I knew it.
I bought all of them on Vudu to start watching them, and we got through like the second one.
Okay.
Why?
I'm just rewatching them right now with my wife, and I'm enjoying
them.
I am. I mean, the first two are clearly the most kiddie and you know made for children, but the kind of the third onwards is pretty solid.
Get more adulty.
Yeah, for sure.
More like pornographic.
Oh yeah, like nonstop. It's ridiculous.
I'm trying to figure out what this is through context clues. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Harry Potter, of course.
Oh, okay. I was like,
you couldn't figure that out through context.
The Raimi Spider-Man movies. Yeah.
Okay, talk, Tyler.
Yeah, I'm back on the Wi-Fi, and I went back to where it's strongest, so I should be fine now.
Okay. Do we remember where we were?
Yeah, I was talking about stakes. Do you just want me to start that over and you'll edit it?
That's great.
Okay.
No, yeah, just start talking about how they started killing 1 million people in Metropolis and start from there.
Right. I remember exactly where I was at. I've got that kind of brain. Good like that. Yeah, I mean, they just fucked up the stakes from square one. Like, the whole thing with Metropolis and Man of Steel, like, they killed hundreds of thousands or millions of people, and the fans didn't like that. So, like, in Batman v Superman, they fixed it by taking them to, like, an abandoned island and blowing that up. And then in Suicide Squad, they took them to an abandoned city, and they blew that fucker up. And, like, they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And it's like, all right, we know this isn't working. We don't know what else would work, so let's just keep doing what isn't working, you know? It's insane.
Keep going to cities and just destroying them. Once again, the exact same imagery is just happening over and over again. And so, yeah, for me, the action sequences they just fell flat. There was one moment, and I'll describe it more specifically in spoilers. There was one moment in one action sequence that I found myself laughing out loud and going, this is fun.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think it's the same for everybody. It's about halfway through the movie, and it's great.
Yeah, and it's like, and I'm not saying like, oh, there's the key, do more of that, but it was just, I felt a level of life and investment and care in that moment that I just, throughout the rest of the film, felt either completely non-existent or gutted from what it was originally intended to be. So all this to say,
in this movie, there is definitely a favorite part for me. And that, like, if I hated the whole movie, I wouldn't have had a favorite part. So I have a part that makes the entire movie worth it for me.
Oh no! Don't say that. They'll make another one.
And well, they'll probably make another one anyway. And another last thing before I let Chris finish his review, guys, the runtime. Like, how grateful are you for the runtime of this film? It's only 2 hours.
Oh, no way, man! They slaughtered this thing. This should have been 20 minutes longer.
Oh,
I'm not being sarcastic. I think that
I'm opposite.
I am neutered this movie,
I'm
man.
totally okay with this being 2 hours. I think 20 minutes would have wasted more of my time. The gruelingness of Batman vs Superman makes it a movie that I can never I can't rewatch.
Every time I watch Batman vs Superman again, though, I watch the super 3.5 hour cut. Though that's the thing.
But for me, when I grade a movie, because I watch so many movies, I'm telling you, a movie that's an hour and a half long could never get less than a C- for me, just because of its run length. I'm kind of saying that in jest, but literally, if you're gonna make a bad movie, at least don't waste my time. And I'm not saying this is a bad movie. We'll see what I say when I say.
And here's the thing. I understand where you're coming from, Dylan, and I genuinely do think this comes down to taste, because the two categories that I described earlier, a mess of a film and a hollow film, I would much rather watch a mess of a film. I want to feel something, even if it's kind of like, oof, too much, going in the wrong direction, but there was something there. There was personality, there was passion, even if it was misguided, even if it was bloated, at least there's something there. This, for me, is just a hollow shell of a film, and I agree with Tyler. I feel like had they actually let this film breathe a bit more, we actually, and this is my final point, and I'll let you guys talk, but we would have actually had time to understand and know these characters. I mean, I get it. The DC EU is playing catch up with Marvel, and they want to catch up, so they're not going to make all these standalone films and their Justice League. Whatever. That's the choice you make. Fine, but then actually allow us to get to them in their Justice League film. I felt like I knew less about Wonder Woman after watching this film than I did at the end of Wonder Woman. I'm like,
I don't think they need more time for that. I think they need to reallocate their time to do that. I think you could let us know these characters a lot more.
Yeah.
And this also could have used one more standalone movie before, at least one more before it. So I just don't think adding 20 minutes of bullshit is gonna make that better.
Well, I'm not suggesting that they add 20 minutes of that. I'm suggesting that they add 20 minutes of actual character time for us to get to know and understand who these individuals are and where they're coming from and why they're involved in this group and how their weaknesses are complemented by others' strength and back and forth.
But guys, we've seen movies that are this long or shorter that we've gotten to know this many characters better.
No, sure.
So here's the thing, though, is that
reallocation of time is what I would argue, rather than adding 20 minutes of bullshit, which is, this is 2 hours of bullshit. So what makes us think those 20 minutes wouldn't be bullshit also?
Well, I think that it just like their problem is that they're trying to change the characters too much from what makes them amazing. You know, they're trying to take them and say, this is our version, and it's totally different from the comics. But if you're going to do that, then you have to take the time to do that. You know, like if you watch a Marvel movie, you know, people shit on the MCU sometimes, but if you watch Iron Man for 5 minutes, just pick any 5 minutes out of any Iron Man movie, and you'll understand who Tony Stark is, you know, and it's so simple to sort of boil a character down to their basics, and fans will be invested because fans love the characters already from the comics, you know, and trying to change them so much means that they actually have to take the time to invest us in these new versions of these characters, where Batman is willing to kill people with guns and Superman is a mopey, sad sack loser. Like, I don't know. I just don't think they took the time to follow through with what they were trying to do.
When you say take the time, do you literally mean run time?
I mean take 2 extra minutes with Flash. You know, maybe Flash is a bad example because he did have the thing with his dad. But take 2 extra minutes with somebody like Cyborg, you know, and give him anything at all. You know, give Steppenwolf
the most boring character of any of these.
Well, Steppenwolf is pretty bad too. But yeah, like give Steppenwolf a monologue. You know, give him something like the Joker's speech in the interrogation room in The Dark Knight, or something like that. Just anything that breaks him apart from just like, I'm a big CGI baddie, you know. And no character in this movie had that really.
Yeah, it's tough, and I think splitting hairs over whether or not they could have just figured out how to make the current scenes they have in there better or add more scenes. That's beside the point. I just think that they still wasted these characters, and their characters. And for all you listeners out there who are thinking that I'm saying I hate DC and I should go burn in hell because of my opinion, get off your high mighty horse. I love these characters. I love these characters, and I want only the best for them. And it hurts me to say that I dislike this film a lot, and it hurts me to say that I'm going to give this film a D+. It's not what I want to give. I went in wanting to give this film everything, all of my love, and more. But I can't, because it was just a hollow piece that didn't seem to have any real spirit or passion behind it, save a couple of very specific moments, but those are just a couple of specific moments for me. And yeah, I left feeling very drained and just deflated.
What about you, Tyler? What is your more of your thoughts and your grade?
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, I think that you just said so many poignant things, and I agree with all of that. And it's such a huge bummer. Like I've said 1,000 times on my podcast, everybody knows this. I've wanted a Flash movie. I saw like a fucking Gatorade commercial when I was 4 years old where it was this kid and he was like punching super fast. He had like lightning bolts around him. I'm like, that's the Flash, and there's a Flash movie coming, I got all fucking stoked for it. Like, I thought that was coming when I was 6 years old, and I've been waiting for it for like almost 20 years. And it's here, and it fucking blows chunks, man. Which is such a huge bummer.
True.
I mean, the thing that you said about like, oh, people are gonna call me a hater, but like I don't have to like this movie just because Batman's in it, because I like Batman, and this movie bummed me out. Like I mean, I have so much to say about The Flash, and I think I'm going to spend most of my time talking about that, because like I said, I've been waiting for this movie for a really long time. I love the show on the CW. I've been reading Flash comics for a long time, and they really tried to go a direction with his character in this by like going for like the
Tom
autistic.
Holland.
What's this? Yeah, right. They should have gone with
Tom Holland, and they fell on their fucking face.
Yeah, that's what That's what Flash should be. He should be the newcomer to the league. He should be what he is in the movie, except his personality is like so fucked up. And I feel like it's just like, I feel like I'm crazy. Like they keep doing that thing where they introduce a character, they make a casting announcement, and I say that is going to be terrible. It happened with Lex Luthor, it happened with Jared Leto as the Joker, and it happened with this. And every single time that I say, okay, that's going to be terrible, why are they doing that? Somebody says like, you can't say that until you see the movie, just wait. And I always wait. And I always get disappointed. And then I go to them and I'm like, that sucked, right? I was right? And they're like, yeah, it sucked, but the next one's going to be good. And they just keep on believing that. And I don't know why people have so much faith. Like, there's a reason this movie is going to make under $300 million when it should have made $1 billion,
But it's not the
Fans
casting decision of Ezra Miller that I think makes the Flash suck. It's the writing around him that makes him suck. So,
well, and it's certainly that too. I have this thing that I tweeted the other day. I was talking about autistic stereotypes in film. I'm sorry if I'm rambling. It's just something that's really close to home for me. Like I'm on the spectrum. I feel like you see a lot of really shitty autistic stereotypes in film. And it was weird, just like it's just so ridiculous. Like he makes terrible jokes when nobody else is laughing. He's the person that like talks like a quirky fucking cartoon character. He's probably obsessed with Japan. He's like awkward around black people. Like, did you guys catch that line?
Yeah, that was really weird. That was really weird.
Yeah, he like tries to fist bump him. Cyborg doesn't want to fist bump him. And he's like, oh, okay, racial tension. I was like, what the fuck is that? What? That's not
that was
joke. Like,
that was weird.
It was the worst, man. And it's the pain is going to pass quickly because, like I said, I like the CW show, and this week they're going to, like, go fight the fucking Nazi versions of themselves. And I'm like, I guess that TV is where this lives. Like, TV is the closest you're going to be able to get to a weekly comic book in a live-action format. And it sucks because there's not even a Flash film on the docket. Like, the director of Dope was supposed to make it. It was supposed to come out, like, a year and a half from now, and they just pushed it. So, I guess, fuck me. I don't know. I mean, this movie was a massive disappointment.
I know you're mad, but let's, we don't have to have every other word be the F word.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's just the way that I talk. I'll try and dial it back. D-. Solid
D-.
D-. Yeah.
So for me, I just don't think. I mean, I just don't think I care enough. I'm not a comic reader, and it's just this. I just didn't have expectations of this film at all. So for me, I wasn't as, I feel like, offended by the movie as either of you guys. I just found, again, I don't think Ezra Miller is the reason that The Flash sucks. It is because they just need to write these jokes that nobody would say unless they were trying to make people laugh. But then he doesn't make this reaction like, haha, that was kind of funny, right? Ever. He never does that. But he's saying jokes. Like, nobody would ever do that. People, at least they could make him like, hey, I'm trying to be funny, guys. Nobody, but he says his brunch joke that nobody would say unless they were trying to be funny.
Yeah,
And
that was ridiculous.
he also didn't make a good point about brunch either. Well, we'll talk about it in spoilers. Right? We have to save our brunch spoilers for the spoiler section. But
We gotta rip apart the logic of his brunch joke. This is very important.
But yeah, it's again, they just tried to recreate Tom Holland, which worked so well with Spider-Man and in Civil War. Just didn't work in this. The Cyborg looked awful. I don't know anything about that character from any. I didn't even know he existed before Batman vs Superman. He looked awful. He looked like Lawnmower Man CGI almost.
It was very RoboCop 2014. It was a bummer.
It looked he looks bad, and there's just lines of dialogue to explain everything at the very beginning of the movie when Wonder Woman first wraps somebody up with the lasso of truth. She says, "Who are you?" And they don't say anything. And then she says, "The lasso of truth compels you to tell the truth. Now, who are you?"
I think they just have to catch everybody up because some people might not know anything about that.
You know what? They could have done that with that dialogue. They could have asked, "Who are you?" And he doesn't say anything. And then she wraps him up in the lasso, and then it glows. And he says, "What are you doing?" And then he starts telling the truth. Give the audience the, just give them some credit. Maybe they can figure it out. And then, at that line of, you do that without any line of dialogue, and then maybe some people will still be confused. And then later in the movie, you can say one little thing, and he goes, "Oh, hey, don't wrap me up with that lasso. I'm gonna start telling you the truth." I mean, obviously, I'm not. I'm being like that's lame what I just said, but I'm just trying to give better ideas than. Who are you? The lasso of. Why would she need to tell somebody that? Like, why? Never.
Well, also, that's her number one thing that she's known for. Right. It would be like if Batman pulled out a batarang and he's like, I shaped these batarangs like bats because I'm a bat guy because I saw a bat when I was little and I got scared of. Like, it's insane, man. Like, if she's in the invisible jet, she doesn't need to tell us she's in the invisible jet because she's flying an invisible jet.
But I get it's more difficult to explain than a batarang or an invisible jet, so I kind of get it. But you could do it without. You just don't have to do exposition dumps for everything. It's just. Also, the first half of the movie is just a bunch of shotgun stories, little to do with each other. It was, again, like you're watching a bunch of short films. It was like you're watching The Animatrix. They have nothing to do with each other except they're kind of spliced between each other. Like, Batman is supposedly, according to what they're going for, setting this whole thing up, but we go 20 minutes without him. Right?
Yeah.
We're learning all these other sub-stories. It is this whole franchise is really being harmed by the fact that they feel like they have to catch up to Marvel. If Marvel didn't exist, first of all, this wouldn't exist in the first place. And second of all, this would be feeling natural at all, but nothing feels natural. Batman vs. Superman wasn't natural. The only thing that ever felt natural, ever, was Wonder Woman. And that's why everybody liked it.
Well, and another thing to point out, too, is that when she wraps up the guy with the lasso, when she explains what the lasso does, those could have been shot a year and a half apart from each other. Like, it could have just been a studio note, like, you need to explain what that is, and then somebody had to go in and write, like, the laziest line ever to explain what it was, you know?
Right.
It's ridiculous.
And then out of nowhere, Batman goes to somebody early in the movie, one of the potential Justice League people, and he says, "I'm getting a team together." And we never knew before he was doing that. And I don't know where he's traveled across the world, and he's saying he's getting a team together. There was no setup for it. No, like, I need to get people together, or him talking to Wonder Woman saying, hey, we need to expand this, something like that. And I guess they're relying on what happened in Batman vs. Superman for that. But this is its own movie. So you need to have a little... It doesn't have to be... Again, I'm just saying I need less explanation, and now I'm saying I need more explanation. But again, it just needs to have what is his motivations for this? Why is he doing this? Because he happens to be setting up a Justice League, and then they happen to get a bigger threat that they need the Justice League for, right? Like, how about they get the threat, and then they get together? I think that's kind of what happened in Avengers.
Well, it feels like Suicide Squad, where they set up the team to take on the big supervillain, and they accidentally create the supervillain by doing that. You know,
right? So
it's like what I don't know.
Yeah, that's not what happens in this, but
I know.
Supervillain happens to come up while they're creating the team, and it's like it just feels so happenstance. And of course, supervillain seems like the hardest thing to destroy ever, especially in his opening scene. He's just like nobody will be able to kill him.
Right.
And yeah. Anyway, some of it started getting set up in Batman vs Superman, like the little bug baddies that they had. They kind of showed in a dream sequence, right? So we got a little of the setup, but I think they forgot that they also gave us 2.5 hours of dull, so nobody freaking remembers anything that happened in Batman vs Superman. Anyway, I'm, unlike you guys, extremely grateful for the movie's runtime. This movie is potentially even rewatchable one day for me because of it. Even though I didn't enjoy it, I just don't think it's the dullest thing in the world, but there are jokes after joke that fall on their face. Small amounts of cackling, little bits. For so few people were laughing in this, but again, there was one thing that a joke that I actually really appreciated, and I was like, that's really clever, and we'll talk about that when we get spoilers. And there is a favorite part in this movie that is, other than anything that happened probably other than the No Man's Land scene from Wonder Woman, it's probably my favorite scene in the entire universe. And I can't wait to talk about that in spoilers, but in general, this movie for me is just a C. It is a below. I think C plus would be an average movie. This is below average, but I'm grateful for the runtime, and there was at least an extremely good, powerful scene. So is this worth watching? Nobody's gonna decide by this review if you're gonna watch this movie or not. Right. You're gonna already have your mind up if you wanted to watch Justice League or not. But you know, do you guys think that it's? Would you guys tell people not to watch it, or do you think?
I think it depends. It honestly depends. For me, like if you have been following the DC cinematic universe and you like the film so far, I'd be like, yeah, dude, like knock yourself out. It's not gonna. I don't think if you loved Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman, this is not going to be some massive step down.
Right, but
if you
what about
didn't
the
like
people
those
that feel like everybody else, that they're like, I just didn't prefer them.
I'd be like,
great.
Don't waste your time. Like if you just go to the movies every once in a while, there are better films out there right now to watch, and just watch those instead.
I definitely highly recommend Thor Ragnarok over this film because it did the action better, it did art direction better, it was more beautiful, it was more funny, more likable. Everything was better in Thor Ragnarok. This movie makes me almost want to give. I think I give Thor Ragnarok a B plus. It almost makes me want to bump that to an A minus. So I a couple of years ago, biggest Marvel hater in the world, and I thought Marvel movies just sucked. And yeah, some of them do, and they're not that. It's not as great as everybody thinks it is. But man, now that I got a comparison of what really bad could be, I have a much better appreciation for what Marvel has done as just as a universe, and the fact that they keep giving a movie for a director and they let them breathe with it. I feel like it appears to be something they're doing. So for that, that's right.
Well, and I will also say that, I mean, I think I've talked about it on the show before. I'm a huge fan of movies that are like so bad they're good, and this is an entire universe of those. Like this movie, I give it a D minus. It's a 10 out of 10 bad movie. Like if you got a hangover and you're looking for something really dumb to watch, this is that. You know, if you want to like get high with some friends or whatever and watch something that's ridiculous and terrible and a huge train wreck, this movie is like right up there with Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Fantastic. So
Yeah, I'm not there
yeah,
with you.
that's what you're looking for.
I'm not
right.
there with you. It's like this movie's not even
Most
going to make
people.
my top 10 worst of the year. It's not. It's
Right.
not just completely terrible for me, but it's on par with Batman vs Superman. I'm just more grateful with this movie because of the runtime. Again, I know I keep saying that, but
Right.
I would prefer this over Batman vs Superman simply because the runtime was shorter.
I
And there's a
can
better.
buy- I
there's
can see
at least
why.
one better scene.
Right. I can dig it.
All right, so let's switch over to spoilers. We might lose some people.
Spoil it.
We might lose some people. So why don't you tell people where they can follow you on the internet, Chris?
So sad that we're losing you. I'm saddened that you guys are leaving us now. But if you are, you guys can find me on Twitter as well as on YouTube. Simply search my name, Chris Hartwell, or The Heartbeat on YouTube. Heart spelled H-A-R-T.
What about you, Tyler Merchant? Where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, people can find me on Twitter at Future Horse Pod, or check out my podcast, the Cynical Cartoons Podcast. I also host one about a series of unfortunate events, but that's not really ongoing right now until the new season comes back. So you can find that on Twitter. Dude, yeah, it's coming up sometime in 2018. So we are hurting for episodes because that's my most popular show.
I have
so
a
Unfortunate
question.
Associates.
I have a question. How do you do a Netflix show podcast?
You just do it. You just do one episode a week, and people will wait because they have to wait a year for the show anyway. So they're looking for any content at all to consume about
Makes
it.
sense.
You know?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always struggled with it because I've always considered, but that totally makes sense. You're right. You're completely. That's the problem with Netflix shows, especially for people with us. Is the thing is not nobody's watching it at the same time, so it's people can't even discuss it. Like nobody is talking about what they think about Stranger Things because everybody is watching it on different time lengths. So it's unfortunate that way, but I guess that's the only way they could possibly do it is that way, is at least listen to people discussing it. And also when you're binge watching a show, some of the things like completely fly out of your head because you're just cramming so much into your brain. So that lets you helps you set everything in. Right. Do you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean it's really hard for like discussion culture kind of, but it is really good for the consumer. You know, like I wouldn't have finished Iron Fist if I had to wait 13 weeks to finish it, you know? I just wouldn't have done it. And I did finish it because it was just all there and I had a weekend free. So, I don't know, it's up in there. There's pros and cons to everything.
So for me, you can follow me at Chuckster. That's SCHUCKSTR. For the show, you can follow us at The Watch and Talk on Twitter and Instagram. You can go to our Facebook at facebook.com/The Watch and Talk. Email us thewatchtalk@gmail.com and go to our website, thewatchandtalk.com. Next week, we're going to try to review The Darkest Hour. It might not be possible. So if not, we're going to do Coco. I think we're going to do Coco either way as a bonus review regardless. So stay tuned to check those out. And without further ado, let's switch over to spoilers. All right. I think you guys know what scene I'm talking about, right? And this is after Superman was resurrected and he was confused and he was fighting the Justice League.
In the moment,
I absolutely loved that scene. I thought that was fantastic.
Me, the scene was fine, but for me, the moment that was just like, yes, and I was actually laughing out loud, was the moment where Flash is running, and then he realizes that Superman can move as fast as him as his head slowly turns to look at him. A great moment. A great, very fun moment, to be sure.
I completely encompass that in what I'm talking about, that entire scene.
Okay,
that was when I really... I didn't laugh, but that's when I knew I was really enjoying the scene. And we really realized how scary Superman is. The fact that he was able to easily defeat all of them. And stop every single one of their powers. And when Wonder Woman was like, I don't want to have to do this to you, but I will. And she goes to clink that, do the, whatever that you call that.
The gauntlet thing.
Yeah, her gauntlet thing. And he rushes at her and stops her hands from being able to combine each other. And that he was, and that Flash's reaction to seeing him move as fast as he was, that he had never seen anybody be able to do.
Brilliant.
And then he was just running from him and ducking from him.
Yeah.
Superman,
and the real problem there is, though, is that you just, like, you then get to the end sequence, and the instant that Superman shows up, you're like, well, the battle's over. Who cares? Like, the rest of the Justice League can go home at that point, you know?
Well, they can go and worry about all the sub characters and keep them at bay while Superman's, obviously defeating the main character. But my point is, I had never in any movie... I mean, I know Superman always seemed powerful, but so does Batman in Batman movies, and so does Daredevil in Ben Affleck's Daredevil, and so does Spider-Man, and so does Captain America. They all seem very powerful.
Sure.
I've never seen Superman in such contrast to everybody else and realized that he is seriously a step above everybody, which, yeah, that did make a problem because the second Superman appeared, the battle was pretty much over afterward, but that scene at least was so effective and it made him look so terrifying. And we've never seen Superman against us. I mean, I at least I haven't. And I was afraid of Superman, and I thought that was a really great, effective scene. That I would want to rewatch the movie just for that. Again, I won't be able to. I'll be super excited when we get to that.
That to me was the only like smart thing the whole movie did. Really, was it showed us how powerful he is, because when you have a Justice League, the inherent problem is you either have to neuter Superman or he's the most powerful thing ever, and everybody else has nothing to do. You know, and they didn't neuter him, which was smart. Like a lot of the time, you'd have to like, oh, he got shot with a kryptonite bullet, so all he has is his intellect, you know? Right. And they managed to get around that here just by giving him a big CGI baddie to fight. But yeah, Chris, you were right. The one moment with Flash was like the one moment that felt distinctly Flash to me in the whole movie, you know? And
I love when he called him a slowpoke.
It told you about both their characters. Yeah.
They called him a slowpoke
and
when they're saving that family.
Well, and I wish that the ending scene wasn't just like such like a sort of cop out, like the after credits thing where they were talking about racing, but they ended up not doing it, or they didn't show it. Like, why build that up and then not show us it? You know, it's one of the most iconic Superman Flash moments of all time is them racing, so it's kind of silly.
Also,
but
there was like a Tremor style purple worm that was going around destroying everything once Steppenwolf took over or whatever.
That was just the virus of his planet. Just right. I don't know.
It looked so lawnmower man. It just
lawnmower guy.
Lawnmower guys. Well, I meant lawnmower guys. I meant lawnmower man guys. It just looked just comically bad, and it just. I mean, I also I did, you know, something I did like too.
In the movie. Sorry, go ahead.
I did like Batman turning to Flash when he was afraid, and him saying, "Just save one person. Just try saving one person." I appreciated that, but the thing was, shortly afterward, the Flash is going to try to help fight Superman without having an issue with it. So that didn't pay off, but I at least enjoyed that scene. Just didn't like where they went with it. It seemed like the script supervisor wasn't really like, "Hey, just remember he's afraid of fighting." So
yeah.
Let's remember that in this scene, but maybe.
So what you were saying about the effects is really something that hit me so hard, is that this movie should, like I was saying, this should have made $1 billion. This should have been one of the biggest event movies of all time, and it doesn't even look good. Like if the characters aren't interesting and the moments don't work and the story isn't interesting, then it has to look good, and it doesn't, which is a huge bummer.
And I feel like every once in a while. I saw, and sometimes his flair is completely soulless and just flair, but sometimes I saw the positive sides of Zack Snyder's flair. So actually, I thought the first sequence with Batman, where he's like hunting the parademon and he's like forcing that one guy to be scared so that he can capture the parademon, there was like some cool like neon lights in the background in that moment. And the very first shot of Batman was like straight out of Frank Miller's comic book, which was kind of cool. Right. But yeah, besides that, I completely agree with you, Tyler. Like the film just was like, yep, that was created on a green screen and looks really flat and kind of just desaturated and monochromatic and just, duh.
And how much have they screwed up with Ben Affleck too? I mean, that was a casting decision that was panned, and now they're already talking about recasting him. How could that possibly work?
Oh my gosh. Okay, here's the thing. Well, I'll answer that question in just a second, but I felt like Ben Affleck in Batman v Superman was solid and borderline good. I thought he did a good job as the character, and I could see him trying. I could see him almost like wanting to prove himself. Like, all right, you haters, like I'm gonna give this my all. Like I'm gonna really work out, and then I'm gonna do what I can to make this part good, even if it was underwritten. Here, I could just see him every single scene disengaging more and more, and just caring less and less. And it was just like, yeah, he's done. Like you guys, whatever. Yeah. Exactly. that was the first thing I said to my friend when he and Superman were kind of facing off again. I'm like, hey, just remind him of Martha. It'll be fine.
I have to say, so when she's... Also, why wasn't Superman able to defeat him so easily in Batman vs.
Well, because there was the kryptonite gas.
Kryptonite or whatever,
like
right?
He wasn't trying to kill him. He was trying to stop. I don't know.
Okay. So when... how about the cringe of when Wonder Woman came to explain Steppenwolf to Batman? And they're in his lab, and then she starts explaining it, and then they're walking by a lake when it switches back to them. Like, how long has she been giving him an exposition dump? And the way her voice was even dubbed during the scenes, too, was just so cringe. And, man, this villain, I don't know anything about Steppenwolf, never even heard of him before. And, boy, is he not a scary villain to me at all.
Oh, boring.
Well, and the problem is that Steppenwolf is just a stepping stone to Darkseid. I did make a little joke.
It's true. It's true.
It's a problem because Darkseid is like their number one Justice League villain. They even fought him in that Super Friends cartoon I talked about earlier. But the problem is that he's too much like Thanos, so they have to like hold back on him until Thanos happens, because otherwise everybody will just think that it's a ripoff. And so the problem is that all of the DCEU villains so far, except for Lex and Zod, I guess, have just been like big, dumb CGI, boring nonsense characters, and that's exactly what Darkseid is. So it's not really building to anything different at all.
How about the joke where... I want to break down the brunch joke, but before we do, Alfred...
Are you going to talk about... I thought you were about to talk about Aquaman.
So Alfred has to go meet somebody, and Alfred says, "You have a date, Miss Prince. It's about time somebody here did." Like, is Alfred trying to get laid?
No. He's trying to get Batman out of the Batcave.
Yeah, he talks about that a lot in BBS. All that he wants to do is to get Bruce's dick wet. That's all he ever talks about.
It is so weird. And then his cheesy line when he's like, "This isn't the plan." He says, "No, Master Wayne, this is the team." Like, did that land for anybody? Because it didn't. No, it did not.
Good.
No way.
By the way, when he said about somebody here did, not even a single chuckle from a single person in the theater, which is what the point of those whole things are. So people are laughing and forgetting how bad the movie they're seeing is because they're having fun. You mentioned it briefly, but the time that I did smile was the Aquaman sitting on the lasso joke. I thought that was clever. I thought it was funny.
I was about to say, so that to me is an example of very, very poor joke structure, right? So basically the scene is Aquaman has like this little monologue about never knowing if he belongs and not having any friends and all of this stuff. And it's revealed that the lasso is wrapped around his foot and that he was compelled to tell the truth. So that scene would have worked. Like, it's so cringy in the moment because you don't know what's going on. And when you see the lasso... Well, when you see the lasso, you're like, okay, I guess that's funny. But if they had shown the lasso before that, you would have been in on the joke, and it would have actually been funny.
It worked
rather
for
than
me because we didn't see it. Because here's why it worked for me. It's because he started off like a badass, and he was monologuing about why he's a badass, and then he sits down and he starts talking, and he goes slowly from badass to all of a sudden I'm lonely and I don't have any friends and I'm actually really insecure and all this, and then. You're like, wait a second. By the time he pulled out the lasso, I was like, oh, that's funny because that slowly degraded into a pathetic conversation, which is what made it funny for me. Because then I was like, oh, that actually, now that I think about it, he did get really personal really quickly out of nowhere. That's what made the joke work for me. That's why I thought it was funny, because I didn't see the lasso before. Is because it made me think back to the conversation and be like, actually, that was pretty weird.
I can buy that. I will just say though that I saw this with my friend Ryan, and when that happened, he put his head in his hands and slumped down in his seat, and he didn't sit back up straight the whole rest of the movie. So that's the moment.
For me, that was the only moment that worked for me humor-wise. That's the only thing that worked for me.
Okay, I can.
But I could understand. Like, for me, the brunch joke. Again,
yeah, that's.
I know I keep saying it, but here's the thing. He's like, I don't get people because I don't get like brunch because they go and wait in line for an hour and they basically have lunch. First of all, most times you go for brunch, you don't wait for a line, and most people aren't going to relate with that and that's what humor's supposed to be, is relatable, right? When you're making jokes about regular things.
Most
brunch, I could go get brunch. I go get brunch this Sunday and not wait in line. You just go to a place and get brunch, and also you're eating breakfast.
Well, it sounds like a line that Joss Whedon wrote when he was having brunch, and he's like, "This is annoying," and then he wrote about his super specific
anecdote. Because he probably went to an LA trendy spot that his rich friends were like, "We gotta go do this," and he waited for hours and just going to
living in a warehouse.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I just feel like. Go. I'm sorry. Go, Tyler. Go.
No. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just gonna say, I think that's going back to my point where, again, I usually appreciate Joss Whedon's kind of like quippy just quirky lines. But all these felt like the first draft of something. It was like, yeah, I kind of see what you're going for, I guess, Joss, but that's just also just a stupid line.
I can't believe how little laughter was when that line was delivered. It was I can, because it wasn't funny.
Right.
But it's just, I can't believe that they let that go through test audiences. Like, they had to have tested that joke with people. And I guess when you're a test audience for Justice League, you're a big fan or something. I don't know. It's like, I don't know how that got through the final cut, because it was just, well, again, it's not the way a joke is, because it's not relatable, it's not funny, it's not relevant, it's not.
I don't know if you saw this. I browse the DC Cinematic subreddit sometimes because it's interesting to see the way that people talk about it when they are trying very hard to defend the movie. You know, and somebody posted that they went to see it with the test audience, and that Warner Brothers released all of the test audience screening notes to like show everybody, like, look, it's 96% with audiences, so you can read all of the 5 stars, all the 1-star notes, you know. And a lot of the 5-star notes were saying this is better than the Avengers, the best superhero movie ever. This is hilarious, you know. And it's like, people will love something if they get to see it early and for free, and it has their favorite characters in it. No matter how good it is, they'll say that it's 5 stars. So that's how things get through that kind of situation.
Yeah, completely agree. It's unfortunate that has to be the reality of the situation.
Okay, a couple things too about Wonder Woman and her references that she has to make about Chris Pine.
Sure. I forgot about
how she finds Superman or Batman's big walking machine that he makes or whatever, and she's like, "I once knew a man who would have loved to fly it."
Yeah. Oh, that's so bizarre. It happened 7 years ago, Wonder Woman. Get over it.
Oh, well, it's like, I get her still having feelings for him after that, but to make a comment every time you see something that's every time you see a vehicle,
every time you see a watch, every time you see a guy with brown hair or a jacket on,
every time you see a vehicle, you're like, I know a man that would have loved. He would have been like, what? I have no idea what this is, or what? I don't know. Anyway, also the photo of him. How about when the photo of him lands on the water and it stands up?
Yeah.
In the
water. Photos land.
In the yeah, exactly. Why not just plop it in the water from a bird's eye view and then have it sink in? Why do you have to have it do what would never happen? Like, a photo would never land in. It wouldn't even land. It would land like that if it landed in Jello. The only way it would stand up. The only way. And it probably wouldn't.
Is if it's honey or like molasses or something. Well, the problem is that they want to make every moment like a CGI flare. You know, like that moment. It looks goofy, it looks wacky, and there's like a moment later on where like Flash has like bug guts all over him, and it looks like an N64 game. And it's a problem because the studio just doesn't know how to ground their visuals at all. You know, that moment or any of the moments from the movie, really.
I can't believe we have not yet mentioned the moment that for me just made me cringe the most and go, I cannot believe that you just had the character say that. When Martha and Lois are talking to one another, and Martha says, Clark always said you were the thirstiest girl he ever knew. I mean, hungriest. I'm like, what
also,
are
she
you
was
doing?
Like my mother-in-law. Not that you guys were married. No, in-law means married. In-law means legally. What? Anyway. Also, what I said, Tyler, you saw, and this is not, don't worry, anybody, it's not spoiling Thor Ragnarok, but you saw Thor Ragnarok, Tyler?
Yeah, of course.
And I hate to keep comparing these two, but I have to because it came out 2 weeks ago. There's a scene where you got a flashback of Valkyrie fighting with Kate Blanchett's character, right?
Yeah.
And that was visually stunning. It looked like graphic novel painting Like,
right, it all looks like a Led Zeppelin cover. It's amazing. It looks great.
Beautiful. And I'm like, I said in that review, that's exactly what Zack Snyder is going for in his DC movies. He's going for that effect, and that movie nailed it. And Zack Snyder never did. Like, he never made these look with that graphic novel artistry that he nailed in 300. I think he nailed in 300. He just has not been able to translate that over to this, and it's just insane that 300 that came out 10 years ago is so much more beautiful than this movie coming out 10 years afterward, with technology changing so quickly. And then I see Thor Ragnarok nail it so beautifully and how great it looked. And I think the only compelling visuals is, you may disagree, but is when Flash goes into his slow-mo mode. I think it's pretty compelling usually. I mean, at least a little bit. I really think the Flash from Batman vs. Superman, when it shows him coming back from the past or from the future out of nowhere and slowly trying to talk to him, I thought that looked really good. But there wasn't really a scene like that in this.
I was really confused by the Flash in this, because they kept saying in interviews and stuff like that, like, they used to have a rule on TV where you couldn't have Batman or Superman because they were in the movies. And then they said with the Flash TV show, they said, okay, we can do this because the Flash in the movie is going to be so much more impressive that nobody will say that the TV show looks better. And you watch the movie and he doesn't do anything really that crazy or interesting. Like, there should have been a moment that's on par with the moment from Days of Futures Past where Quicksilver goes around and takes down 30 guards in one moment. Yeah.
And then he does these touching things. A couple times he touched the edge of the edge of a sword, the tip of it, you touched it and knocked it backwards, which is useful, but
and so having him be super depowered here is so weird, because on the show you get to see him every single week, 23 weeks a year, have a power crawl and get slowly more fast. In the movies, we'll see him again in like 3 years, and is he just going to be like fully powered then, or are we going to have to watch him still be just starting out? I don't even know what it's going to be. So I feel like there's never going to be a satisfying conclusion or like power build with that character, because they just kind of started him in the wrong place, I think.
I like Ezra Miller as an actor. I don't think he was a bad casting decision for this, but I'm also not involved in these at all. I'm not familiar with Flash really at all. But again, it's just the bad jokes. It's you're not going to make a joke when you're fighting to the death. Nobody would. If you're fighting a friend or wrestling with a friend, that I could see you making a joke out of it, making a joke in that situation, but not when you're fighting to the death. And in general, man, every one of his jokes fell on his face. What a quiet theater I was in, man. Quiet.
Right. And so in the comics, actually, there's a good example for that. There's a good explanation for that, and why Spider-Man quips as well, is that they're trying to deflect and they're trying to make their opponent angry. Like, even if you're fighting a 9-foot tall crocodile man, if you can make him see that you don't take him seriously, then he'll get mad and he'll make a mistake. That's never going to happen in these movies, because everybody jokes all the time and nobody's ever stopped up by it, except for that one moment in Guardians of the Galaxy. So it doesn't make sense that people just keep doing it. They're just doing it for our benefit, I guess, and nobody in the audience likes it anyway, so I don't know why they're doing it.
Yeah, that's well put. Did
you guys see the trailer for Rampage before this movie?
I don't know who that film was made for. I'm completely confused by that.
My God.
I'll watch it. It looks like a fun, bad movie. I don't know. It looks really bad, though.
See, the thing is, right now, I'm really... So I just went to another screening of The Room last weekend.
Of Disaster Artist or of The Room, the original film?
And now I'm reading The Disaster Artist before I see the movie.
It's so good.
I just listened to a 1 hour long Q&A with Seth Rogen and James Franco, especially because for me, I'm usually so careful about spoilers before a movie. But right now, I'm just really studying because I really want to have a really in-depth review about that and really in-depth discussion when we discuss The Disaster Artist when that comes out. So right now, I have a completely different image in my mind of a bad movie or a fun bad movie. Because right now, I'm really understanding, like, The Room is so bad, but I love every second of it. So how can I call it a bad movie? I've seen it more times already then I've seen some really good movies. I've seen it more times than I've seen Schindler's List or Shawshank Redemption. I've seen it more times than plenty really good movies. So how can I say what makes a movie good and what makes a movie bad? And you know, so that really makes me think about these DC movies and what, like, am I enjoying my experience? Even though it's a bad movie and it's structured together bad, am I enjoying my experience? I'm not. So that's a massive problem, and it's really making me change the. I don't know, doing all this studying and reading up and reading the disaster artists and really getting into the mechanics of a really bad movie like that. It's kind of it's really fresh in my mind about thinking about bad movies. They're so bad they're good, and man, Rampage does not look appealing. But I have to say, we barely talked about Aquaman other than talking about the lasso thing. I have to say that of the between him, Flash, and Cyborg, Aquaman is my favorite. I like Aquaman. Right. It's like I don't know. The only Aquaman I know is Vincent Chase's portrayal in Entourage.
Right.
So I don't know anything about Aquaman, but I've enjoyed. I mean, he's a little. I don't know, who would we compare him to? Who's like kind of a grumpy hard ass in the Avengers movies or MCU? Who's the Hulk?
I mean, the Hulk, I guess.
I don't know, whatever. So I'm interested in Aquaman, and I know that their standalone movies are able to breathe a little more, as we saw in Wonder Woman. So
right.
I mean, I'm gonna have no issues, no qualms with watching Aquaman, and perhaps it can restore our faith. But Zack Snyder, you gotta go. You gotta be out of this franchise altogether, and you guys gotta stop being so nervous. Give a good director, some freedom. Let them make a movie, guys. Just if you guys are listening.
Well, so do you think that there's going to be any hype about Aquaman at all? Because Wonder Woman had the benefit of being groundbreaking. Like it had to make money, or else studios would say a female-led action movie won't work.
I think it's going to be just as much hype as Thor. Not the
it depends on the trailers.
The original.
I mean, like hearing James Wan, the director, talk about what he's wanting to do with the film and his excitement about it, and how he turned down a bunch of other projects to do this project, like that makes me excited about it. But I feel like not everyone follows interviews and behind the scenes tidbits like I do. So I feel like it really will come down to, can the trailers for that film turn some heads? Can it generate enough momentum that feels separate from, honestly, the stink of so many of the other films?
A lot of people, guys, I saw some idiot kid that I used to work with post on Facebook, just saw Justice League, loved it, gotta watch it again. Just people in general don't necessarily think of movies the way we do, and don't have the high expectations of films that we do, and they can fall for the campy bullshit. So in general, this movie has come out, made $98 million, which is this massive flop. I just don't understand.
Yeah.
A massive flop when it made $98 million is just mind-blowing to me, whatever. But still, it's like, I think general audiences in general don't kind of are thinking of this this franchise as a success, probably in a lot of ways, or I'm sure a lot of people don't even know the difference between the Marvel and DC universes. I bet half of movie-going audience don't know the difference. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but here you guys, if you're talking. Oh, kind of almost heard for a second. Is this my headphones or something? Hello, hello, hello? You guys in the chat, could you guys respond to me if you guys can hear me? In the Skype chat. you hear me? All right, I can hear you guys again. Yeah. The last thing I have recorded for me was me saying that that I don't think that the average film going audience even knows the difference between MCU and EU. But that being said, Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad were two of the top 10 highest grossing films of 2016. And like you said, wait, what'd you say? Yeah. I just think Jason Momoa did enough to differentiate him from the other ones. So I guess I mean, right now, man, I'd be telling you right now, if the next movie was a Cyborg, I would be like, I have no idea how that movie is gonna get anybody to see it, because people aren't even gonna know it's a superhero movie, especially with the name Cyborg. So I we'll see if that ever happens. I just hate to see this movie have no confidence in anything. Or I'm sorry, the series have no confidence in anything. Like they don't even have they're too afraid to greenlight, like you said, a Flash movie. All they have greenlit next is Aquaman and Wonder Woman 2. They don't even know what they're doing with the Batman standalone movie. Oh, Shazam! I don't even know what Shazam is. Is Shaq coming back to do that? That's not related, right? That Shazam isn't related to the Shazam, right? Or is it? Who is it? Okay. No, but in general, Shazam is the Shaq Shazam is was that a DC property? Okay, got it. Yeah, that's but it's Zachary Levi who played Chuck. The Rock. And okay, real quick, just complete out of nowhere while we're talking about it. Do you guys know what the highest grossing movie of the year so far is? Not Wonder Woman. Don't look it up. But it's not an animated film. Actually, Despicable Me 3 is the sixth highest grossing film of the year. Number one of the year, which is so insane because it had no cultural impact whatsoever, I feel like. And nobody was talking about it 2 weeks after it came out. Beauty and the Beast, highest grossing movie of the year. But 3 and 4 were Guardians of the Galaxy and Spider-Man, and number 5 is It. Jeez Louise. It is made more money, a lot more money than Despicable Me. It made almost $80 million more than Despicable Me 3. Crazy. Anyway, we have reached an apex of this conversation. I'm going to have a fun time editing this. Why don't you tell people again where they can follow you on the internet, Chris? And what about you? Yeah, go ahead. A professional podcast editor. And thank you guys. Obviously, I mean, as always, thanks, Chris. But thank you, Tyler, for joining us for this. Well, I'm sorry. What was that weird? Was that weird? Well, I feel weird because you're the co-host of this show, so I feel weird saying thank you. But I mean that isn't weird to say thank you. Anyway, I'm monologuing like Flash right now. I'm talking about brunch. For me, you can follow me at Chuckster. That's SCHUCKSTR. If you go to thewatchandtalk.com and click the podcast tab at the top, you see all the TV shows I do podcasts on right now. The Dead Inside show about The Walking Dead is the big show that's going on right now. So hopefully you check that out if you watch The Walking Dead. For the show, you can follow us at The Watch and Talk on Instagram or Twitter. You can go to facebook.com The Watch and Talk. Email us at thewatchandtalk.com or thewatchandtalk@gmail.com or go to our website, thewatchandtalk.com. And like I said, next week we almost certainly will be reviewing Coco, but we're going to try to do The Darkest Hour also. So tune into that. And that's it. I'm Dylan Chuck. And we'll see you next week. All right, fellas. No, the editing. Well, I have like 5 different files, so that's going to be the most fun part. But I'll be able to. I'll be able to pull it. All right. Cheers, guys. Uh huh. Why? Yeah, I was really giggling really hard after I filmed that. I got so many responses of people being like, if I didn't know you, I would think that I should be concerned. Hey, what's up, man? You called me twice in like an hour. Oh. Has Mikey New York been texting you talking a lot of trash today? Has Mikey New York been texting you talking a lot of trash today? Yeah. Yeah, he just walked away because why are you gonna why do you have to pretend that you want to fight when nobody wants to fight? Obviously, if you're going around shoving somebody, you don't want to fight. Because if you wanted to fight, you'd fight. Anyway, he just walked away being like, whatever, this is stupid. And he texted me today, dude, your boy Lonzo is a bitch. Overrated dude. Was nowhere to be found in that little scuffle with them Suns. What a teammate, leader, bitch. I said, oh, I see. It's such a bitch. It's okay. They'll get a better first round pick next year. I said, they don't own their pick next year. He says, oh, okay. Then the next year, maybe one of their first round picks in the next couple years will defend their teammates and beat. Maybe. Oh, burn. I said, wow, this is what it feels like to get fucked in the ass. He said, I guess so. Ask Lonzo. Oh, right in the ass. I didn't respond. And then he sent a screenshot of our conversation to me. And then I said, who did you mean to send that to? And he said, to show him how funny I am. And then he sent a screenshot. Random interesting fact, Joel Embiid has scored more points in Staples Center so far this year than Lonzo Ball has. Yeah. Lonzo Ball's only scored 58 points in the 9 games played at Staples. And Joel Embiid scored 78. Yeah. But that's really not that big of a deal because Joel Embiid is made history in that game. In his second game against in that game against the Lakers, and Lonzo Ball was never supposed to be a big scorer. He was supposed to be a facilitator, but whatever. Sure, really hurt our feelings. It's just like saying how he got more rebounds than Lonzo Ball. It's like, yeah, he's a big man versus a guard who's whatever. All right, dog. I'm gonna go to. I just recorded a podcast and I have to edit it together. But after I'm gonna go to Rebecca's birthday party for like an hour or so, and then Uber drive. Uh. Huh? Oh yeah, she's blonde. I just met her that night when they're at Volta. They were doing a fundraiser and that they combined it like with trivia night, and I just asked like some. Why? Do you know her? Or did you fuck her or something? Damn, huh? Are you gonna try to fuck her? I mean, she isn't fat. I was like, maybe you haven't seen her in a long time or something, but she isn't fat. And she has like the pinkest. Yeah. Fuck yeah, dog. Fuck yeah. I say no, but dude, when I'm drunk, I've done whatever. So knows. I can never say no. I wouldn't fuck anybody. When I'm super like I've done some weird things. I don't think she's like hideous or anything like that. I mean, she's not my style, but I'm not picky. I'm not picky like you. I'll fuck ass. To sleep dragons stuff. I mean, has her body changed? Twice the size? I don't know. But who knows? Why are we talking about this right now? This is funny. I mean, I'm not with her right now, but I haven't had a good opportunity to break up with her, if that's what you're asking. I haven't had a good opportunity to break up with her, if that's what you're asking. I mean, yeah, dude, she's just she just doesn't think like me, man. She just does not think like me whatsoever. So frustrating to be. That I mean, I don't know. She just, dude, she gets mad at me a lot, dude. Really ridiculous. Like, gets mad at everything. Like, she didn't finish her slider. I was like, hey, why didn't you finish your slider? Is it because you care about me? Like, that's kind of a funny random joke, right? And she got mad at me. She got mad at me. And I was like, and then like, while we're talking about it, I'm like, dude, relax. It's a slider. I was joking. It was just a joke about a slider. It wasn't even a good joke. Like, why are you like actually upset right now? Slider. It's a fucking slider. Sliders. No, but it's like a random joke that we would say, right? Like, that's like totally our sense of humor. Like, what? I mean, like, I need your approval for the joke right now. Yeah, it was just like, dude, it's like everything. Like, dude, it's always getting. Now, I'm like a really laid back person, and she's so high strung. Like, she wants to get pissed all the. Just the way she communicates, just getting pissed off, and it's like, the only reason we haven't broken up is because I have no rush to. There's no pending timer for me having to break up with her in. Like, I'm like, when I tried to, she didn't make it easy, and then I was like, all right, well, like, I guess we'll just do this until like we're just gonna end on a fight, and I'm just gonna get the fuck out of my house. I mean, that's pretty much what happened. The first time I tried to break up with her is like, I was like, maybe you should go. When Seaton gave me the fucking cocaine. Yeah, the floor coke. So bad. Yeah, but it just felt so good. Please. No. She was mad about that though. She was mad thinking it was the first person that was the first person he thought of. That was part of the reason she was mad. I was like, no, he apparently called a couple people before. So I was mad that I wasn't the first person, to be honest. Oh man, it was good. Like, very decent. Very, very decent. Oh my god, please. Please. Can I? Yeah, I like how Jesse had taken the screenshot and now he just has that forever. I respect him. Nah, man. Thanks though, but I'm good right here, so. Yeah, you just keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, I'm chilling, dude. I'm fucking chilling. All right, man.